Ever find yourself trapped in a loop, replaying the same thoughts over and over? It's like a song stuck in your head, right? That nagging feeling can be relentless, consuming your focus and energy. But what if I told you that this experience isn't just frustrating, it's a powerful insight into your mind and emotions? Imagine for a moment you're Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor wrestling with his own thoughts. How did he navigate the chaos of his mind? What tools did he have at his disposal to break free from this mental trap? The truth is, understanding this phenomenon can unlock not just clarity, but also inner peace. Picture a stormy sea. Those repetitive thoughts are the waves crashing around you. But what if you could learn to surf those waves instead of being tossed around? What if instead of fighting the current, you could embrace it? Every time those thoughts resurface, they're not just noise, they're calling for your attention. But why? What are they trying to teach you? Let's dive deeper into this intriguing aspect of our minds and discover the Stoic keys that can transform those mental loops into a path toward tranquility. Ready to explore? The concept of intrusive thoughts. You know, intrusive thoughts are those pesky little ideas that sneak into our minds when we least expect them. They can be completely random, like a bizarre scenario that plays out in your head, or something more distressing, like fears of harming someone or messing up a big presentation. It's interesting how our brains work, isn't it? One moment, you're enjoying a peaceful day, and the next, a thought barges in, demanding your attention. For many, these thoughts can be quite unsettling, leading to anxiety or even obsessive behaviors. Common examples of intrusive thoughts range from simple worries about forgetting your keys to more intense fears of failure or self-doubt. Some people might find themselves replaying embarrassing moments from their past over and over again. Others may have worries about their relationships or health that spiral into irrational fears. It's not that these thoughts reflect who we are, they just pop in. Recognizing that they are just thoughts is the first step toward managing them. Understanding that intrusive thoughts are a normal part of the human experience can be liberating. They don't define us, and everyone experiences them to varying degrees. It's almost like our brains are trying to process a million things at once, and sometimes the odd or distressing ones just slip through the cracks. It's crucial to remember that having these thoughts doesn't mean we will act on them, or that there's something wrong with us. In a way, it's just our mind's quirky way of navigating the complexities of life. The Stoic philosophy. Now, when we talk about the Stoic philosophy, particularly the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, we're diving into a treasure trove of wisdom on mental control and acceptance. The Stoics believed that our thoughts and perceptions shape our reality. They taught that we should focus on what we can control and let go of what we cannot. It's a concept that resonates deeply, especially when dealing with intrusive thoughts. Instead of wrestling with every errant idea that pops into your head, the Stoics would encourage us to acknowledge them and choose how to respond. One of the core principles of Stoicism is the idea of accepting the things we cannot change. This acceptance isn't about resignation, but about finding peace in the chaos. Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of maintaining a clear mind amidst external turmoil. By practicing this acceptance, we can create a buffer between ourselves and our thoughts, allowing us to observe them without getting swept away. Moreover, the Stoics emphasized the power of rationality. They believed that through reason, we can examine our thoughts and determine their validity. Are these intrusive thoughts based on fear or reality? By challenging our thoughts with logic, we can reduce their power over us. It's a skill that takes practice, but once you start applying it, you might find that those intrusive thoughts hold less weight than you initially thought. The nature of thoughts. Exploring the nature of thoughts is a fascinating journey. According to psychology, thoughts are formed through a complex interplay of experiences, beliefs, and emotions. They can be fleeting or persistent, and understanding how they work can empower us in managing them. Our minds are like a busy highway, with thoughts racing in and out at lightning speed. Some thoughts linger, while others just pass by, leaving no trace. The question of attachment to thoughts is equally intriguing. Why do some thoughts cling to us like a stubborn shadow? Often, it's tied to our emotional responses. If a thought evokes a strong feeling, be it fear, shame, or excitement, we're more likely to ruminate on it. This is where the practice of mindfulness can come in handy. By observing our thoughts without judgment, we can start to see them for what they are, temporary and often untrue. Philosophically, many have pondered whether we are our thoughts. The Stoics would argue that while thoughts are a part of us, they do not define us. We have the power to choose how we engage with them. By recognizing the transient nature of thoughts, we can cultivate a sense of detachment. This doesn't mean ignoring them. Rather, it's about understanding their impermanence. In conclusion, the interplay between thoughts, emotions, and our responses to them is a complex dance. By acknowledging that thoughts are not inherently true or false, we can start to reclaim our mental space. Intrusive thoughts, while often uncomfortable, can serve as valuable opportunities for introspection and growth. Instead of being overwhelmed, we can choose to navigate through them with greater awareness and intentionality. Stoic practices for managing thoughts. When I first stumbled upon the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, I was amazed by how relevant they were to the modern mind. His insights into managing thoughts were not just philosophical musings, but practical techniques that I could apply. Visualization, for example, became a powerful tool for me. Whenever I found myself overwhelmed by intrusive thoughts, I would close my eyes and imagine them as leaves floating down a stream. This imagery helped me detach from the thoughts, allowing them to drift away rather than clinging to them. It's fascinating how a simple mental exercise can shift my perspective so dramatically. Meditation, too, became a cornerstone of my routine. Initially, I felt skeptical about sitting in silence, believing I needed to be constantly productive. However, as I began to embrace the stillness, I discovered a profound sense of clarity. I learned to observe my thoughts without judgment, acknowledging their presence but not allowing them to dictate my emotions. This practice of mindfulness, as Aurelius suggested, transformed my relationship with my mind. It was liberating to realize that I didn't have to engage with every thought that crossed. Another technique that resonated with me was the practice of negative visualization. It sounds counterintuitive, but by contemplating the worst possible outcomes, I found a strange sense of peace. It helped me recognize the transient nature of life and the thoughts that often seemed so significant at the moment. By considering what I could lose, I became more appreciative of what I had. This acceptance lessened the grip of intrusive thoughts, allowing me to focus more on the present. As I continued to delve into Aurelius's teachings, I realized the importance of journaling. Writing down my thoughts became a therapeutic outlet. I'd often find myself pouring out anxieties onto the page, which helped to externalize my internal struggles. Over time, I noticed that the act of writing provided clarity, enabling me to see patterns in my thoughts and recognize which ones were worth my energy. It became a ritual that grounded me, transforming chaos into coherence. Ultimately, these Stoic practices are not about suppressing thoughts, but rather about fostering a healthier relationship with them. By incorporating visualization, meditation, negative visualization, and journaling into my life, I found a sense of control over my mental landscape. It's a journey, and while I still encounter intrusive thoughts, I now have the tools to manage them effectively. The importance of mindfulness. Mindfulness has become a buzzword in recent years, but its essence is deeply. When I first explored mindfulness, I was drawn to the idea of being present, fully experiencing each moment without the clutter of distracting thoughts. I began to incorporate simple mindfulness exercises into my daily routine, such as mindful eating. Instead of rushing through meals, I started to savor each bite, paying attention to the flavors and textures. This practice not only enhanced my appreciation for food, but also anchored me in the present moment. One of the key realizations I had through mindfulness was the significance of observing my thoughts without getting entangled in them. I learned to adopt a non-judgmental stance, acknowledging thoughts as they arose and letting them pass like clouds in the sky. This detachment was liberating. It meant I didn't have to identify with every fleeting thought that entered my mind. I became a spectator of my own mental processes, which reduced the power of intrusive thoughts considerably. Breathing exercises also became an integral part of my mindfulness practice. Whenever I felt overwhelmed by racing thoughts, I would take a moment to focus on my breath. Inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly created a space of calm within me. This simple act redirected my attention from the chaos in my mind to the rhythm of my breathing. Over time, I discovered that even just a few minutes of focused breathing could alter my emotional state and provide clarity. Mindfulness also taught me the importance of acceptance. Instead of fighting against unwanted thoughts or emotions, I learned to welcome them as part of the human experience. This shift in mindset allowed me to approach my mental landscape with curiosity rather than resistance. By accepting thoughts as they come, I created an environment where they could exist without overwhelming me. It was a powerful lesson in embracing my humanity. As I integrated mindfulness into my life, I noticed a profound change in my overall well-being. My ability to observe thoughts without judgment fostered a sense of peace that permeated my daily experiences. I became more resilient in the face of challenges and developed a greater appreciation for the present moment. Mindfulness, in its essence, became a guiding principle that transformed my relationship with my thoughts and emotions. Distinction between what we can and cannot control. One of the most profound lessons I've learned from Stoic philosophy is the distinction between what we can and cannot control. Early on, I often found myself caught in a cycle of worry about things outside my influence, other people's opinions, the outcome of events, and even the unpredictable nature of life. This realization was liberating. It meant that I could redirect my energy toward aspects of my life where I could affect change. By focusing on what I can control, my thoughts, reactions, and choices, I began to cultivate a sense of empowerment. I learned to evaluate situations and determine where I could take action, rather than being paralyzed by the uncertainty of external factors. For instance, instead of fretting about an upcoming presentation, I concentrated on my preparation and delivery. This shift in focus made the experience less daunting and more manageable. Moreover, acknowledging the limits of my control helped. When faced with challenges, I learned to ask myself, what can I control in this situation? This question became a guiding principle, allowing me to navigate difficulties with resilience. I realized that even if I couldn't control every outcome, I could control my response and attitude, which significantly impacted my emotional well-being. This Stoic lesson also encouraged me to practice acceptance. I realized that life is inherently unpredictable, and trying to control every aspect would only. Embracing uncertainty became a source of strength. It allowed me to adapt and respond to challenges with grace. By accepting that some things are beyond my control, I found a sense of peace that liberated me from the burden of constant worry. Ultimately, distinguishing between what I can and cannot control has been a transformative journey. It has shifted my perspective in profound ways, allowing me to engage with life more fully. By focusing my energy on what I can influence, I've cultivated a greater sense of agency and resilience, which has empowered me to face life's uncertainties with confidence. Impact of repetitive thoughts on emotional well-being. You know those pesky thoughts that just won't leave you alone? They can really take a toll on your emotional and mental well-being. I've been there, stuck in a loop of negativity, replaying the same scenarios over and over in my mind. It's exhausting, isn't it? These repetitive thoughts can lead to increased anxiety, stress, and even depression. When we can't escape them, they often morph into a relentless inner dialogue that becomes hard to silence. I found that the emotional impact is not just about feeling down. It can affect our everyday lives. For instance, I notice that when I'm caught up in these repetitive thought patterns, my relationships suffer. I become irritable and distracted, unable to fully engage with the people I care about. It's like being in a fog, where the things that matter most seem to fade into the background. This realization was a wake-up call for me. Moreover, these thoughts can create a vicious cycle. The more I ruminate, the more I feel overwhelmed, and the more overwhelmed I feel, the harder it is to break free from those thoughts. It's a tough spot to be in. I had to remind myself that acknowledging these feelings is the first step towards managing them. It's okay to feel this way, but it's crucial not to let these thoughts define my emotional state. Understanding that I wasn't alone in this struggle also helped me cope. Many people face similar challenges with their thoughts. Whether it's worrying about the future or replaying past mistakes, the emotional burden can be heavy. Sharing these experiences with friends or professionals can provide relief. It's amazing how a simple conversation can lighten that load, even if just a little. Ultimately, I realized that the impact of these repetitive thoughts is not just a personal issue, but a universal human experience. By recognizing their effects on my well-being, I began to explore strategies to manage them, leading me to the next step in my journey of understanding and acceptance: cognitive restructuring strategies. When it comes to dealing with those intrusive thoughts, I've found that cognitive restructuring plays a crucial role. It's all about changing the way I think about those thoughts. Instead of letting them control me, I started to challenge their validity. I ask myself, is this thought really true? Or, what evidence do I have to support this? This simple shift in perspective can make a world of difference. One technique I found particularly useful is identify-I's. These are the exaggerated thought patterns that can lead to negative feelings. For example, if I think, I always mess things up, I recognize that this is an overgeneralization and not reflective of reality. By pinpointing these distortions, I can work on reframing them into more balanced and realistic thoughts. It's like pulling back the curtain on my own mind and seeing things in a clearer light. Another strategy I've used is the thought diary. Whenever those repetitive thoughts creep in, I jot them down along with my feelings and the context surrounding them. This practice not only provides an outlet for my thoughts, but also helps me see patterns over time. I can track what triggers these thoughts and how they evolve, which in turn allows me to address them more effectively. I've also learned the importance of replacing negative thoughts with positive affirmations. For instance, instead of spiraling into self-doubt, I remind myself of my strengths and past successes. This shift in focus can create a more empowering narrative in my mind, helping to break the cycle of negativity. Ultimately, cognitive restructuring has allowed me to take charge of my thoughts rather than letting them run wild. It's a continuous practice, but every little step I take brings me closer to a more balanced emotional state. The practice of acceptance. Acceptance has become a powerful tool in my journey to manage intrusive thoughts. Instead of fighting against them, I've learned to recognize and accept their presence. This doesn't mean I have to like them. It's more about acknowledging that they exist without letting them control my actions or emotions. It's quite liberating, actually. I found that the Stoic philosophy, particularly their perspective on acceptance, resonates with me. They teach that we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond to it. By embracing this mindset, I began to see my thoughts as just that: thoughts. They don't define who I am or dictate my worth. This realization has made it easier to let them pass without attaching too much significance to them. Mindfulness plays a crucial role in this acceptance practice. By learning to be present in the moment, I can observe my thoughts without judgment. It's like standing on the shore and watching the waves roll in and out. I can acknowledge the thoughts without getting swept away by them. This shift in perspective has led to a significant reduction in the power those thoughts have over me. There are days when acceptance feels more challenging than others. On those days, I remind myself that it's okay to struggle. It's part of being human. Instead of berating myself for having unwanted thoughts, I practice self-compassion. I treat myself with the same kindness I would offer a friend going through a tough time. This approach fosters a more nurturing inner dialogue. In the end, embracing the practice of acceptance has transformed my relationship with my thoughts. Rather than viewing them as adversaries, I see them as temporary visitors. This shift has significantly improved my emotional resilience, allowing me to navigate life's challenges with greater ease. The practice of reflective writing. Reflective writing has emerged as a valuable outlet for processing those intrusive thoughts that often circle in my mind. I've started keeping a journal where I pour out my thoughts and feelings, no matter how chaotic they may seem. This practice serves not only as a form of release, but also as a means of gaining clarity about what's bothering me. Writing allows me to externalize those thoughts, transforming them from abstract worries into tangible words on a page. There's something therapeutic about seeing my feelings laid out in front of me. It helps me confront them head-on instead of letting them fester inside. Often, I find that just the act of writing helps to diminish the intensity of those thoughts. Moreover, journaling has become a tool for reflection. After I write, I take a step back and read what I've penned down. This process helps me identify patterns, triggers, and even irrational beliefs that I might have been holding on to. It's like holding a mirror up to my mind, allowing me to see things from a different perspective. I can ask myself critical questions about the validity of my thoughts and whether they truly reflect reality. I also experiment with different writing styles, sometimes opting for free writing, where I let my thoughts flow without worrying about structure or grammar. Other times I might choose to write letters to myself or to those who I feel may have contributed to my intrusive thoughts. This form of dialogue helps me process my feelings and fosters a sense of closure. Ultimately, the practice of reflective writing has empowered me to take control of my thoughts, allowing me to process, understand, and ultimately release them. It's a journey of self-discovery that has proven to be invaluable in my quest for emotional balance. As we wrap up our exploration of that relentless loop in our minds, let's take a moment to reflect on a powerful lesson from Marcus Aurelius. He reminds us that our thoughts shape our reality. So, what's been occupying your mental space lately? Are those thoughts serving you, or are they dragging you down? Imagine if we could consciously choose what to focus on. What if, instead of replaying negativity, we directed our attention to growth and gratitude? Think about it. Each time that pesky thought creeps in, you have the power to transform it. Now, I want you to do something. The next time you catch yourself stuck in that mental loop, pause. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me become the person I want to be? If not, it's time to let it go. And here's a challenge for you. Try practicing mindfulness every day this week. Notice how it shifts your perspective. Share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you're applying Stoic principles to conquer those intrusive thoughts. Remember, the mind is a powerful tool. Use it wisely, and you'll start to see the world in a whole new light. What will you choose to focus on today?